All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitical Trends, where truth matters. Excited to be with you today, of course, and because also I wanted to provide you an update and my own added analysis regarding what Houthis or Ansar Allah have just conducted the operations they conducted the last 48 hours. This one has to do with the uh, uh, recent announcements, which was announced on Wednesday. I had to work on that yesterday to confirm a few things, and that's why I decided to do it today. So basically, they carried out two military operations. One of them targeting Tel Aviv, yeah, and the second one is targeting U.S. Warships. So of course we don't hear much about it here in the U.S., but of course you all know why. But this is again what I'm gonna going to be sharing with you in today's live stream. Before I'll do this, like always, like say hi to our wonderful community, Camila Rowenska. Good to see you. Said stop NWO, New World Order. Well, it's gonna change anyway. Naeem, good to see you. Naeem became now. Let me share this with you. A new member, Naeem Ahmed, became a YouTube member. Thanks for becoming a member of the channel, Naeem. Appreciate your support. All right, Zulqaddar Rashid from Pakistan. Good to see you here. By the way, I do have two editors from Pakistan. Wonderful people. Wonderful people. Who else is here? Dr. O, you are such a great patriot. Oh, thank you very much. The U.S. system does not appreciate it. The profit and monopoly matters more than you're absolutely correct. And I am sure there are more Americans like me. They just each one of us contributed in his or her own way. So thank you for your kind words. Appreciate it. Christian, good to see you. Li Yang, good to see you. Willie Holman, as always. Jerome Lazarus, good to see you. I haven't seen you for a while here. George Kelmeres, good to see you. Greetings to you. And man Bilko from Maryland, good to see you here, man. I remember those days when I used to drive through Maryland. Timeline Dunkley, Francis Tango, as always. Famida, good to see you here. And Tom Saya Wires. All right, guys, let's get into our conversation here because, as I said, there's a lot to cover. I'll be sharing some slides with you, some excerpts from my books, some article. Again, guys, the things that I am very excited about is I did present this during private presentations to both military and civilians. So I'm kind of a very, very, very familiar with the region, with the development of what's going on. And now I'm seeing the same trend that I argued back then when the Saudis wanted, thinking that they're going to defeat the Houthis. I argued back then that there is no way, despite what we provide for the Saudis. And we were the one providing them with the targets, logistics, even to the point of even flying some of their fighter jets. Yeah, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised with that. So. All right, let me do some headlines for you. There are three major developments that I need you to be aware of. And again, all falls in within the same context of what I'm going to be talking about. So the first one, it has to do with China here. So what are you looking at? You are looking at the Sichuan, which is the largest and most advanced amphibious assault ship in the Chinese military arsenal to date. And I give, by the way, I give credit to that picture to Bu Haiyang. It's Haiyang. My apologies if I mispronounce it. So here is what happened. You have to go back into the history of China to understand why this is now is important and the timing of it. Well, go back to 1856. What happened? This is when the British warships laid siege to the city, current city of Canton, which is now Guangzhou. And I was there last year. And the reason they did this, because the British warships were armed with cannons and the power to crush the opponent, meaning the Chinese in that case. Here's the thing. The wooden ships of the Chinese ruling Qin dynasty back then, which were scattered on the sea like a small paper toys. in the wind. So this is what's interesting about it. So, and of course, the reason for why I'm sharing this shot of the history, that is the reason why China now is expanding its advanced naval assets. So, and because back then the Qin dynasty suffered from the British ship bombardments. And of course, the city back then, which is Guangzhou today, or Canton as it was known, sort of limited its coastal defenses, and it had little to defend with. So that is the reason why you see China where it is today regarding its naval assets, hypersonics, and so forth. So I wanted to bring this to your attention because it's worth thinking about. So second thing has to do with these two individuals, and I'm going to tell you who they are. There's this one here, and there is this person here. So let's start with the first one. They are both from the same country. What you're looking at is the trade secretary of England. This is the trade minister. His name is Douglas Alexander, who is right now in Beijing visiting, an unannounced visit. Makes you just wonder why all of a sudden Britain is sending its high-ranking officials to Beijing. So now here is what I found very interesting. His trip, meaning Douglas Alexander, this guy here, which is a trade minister. Put the dots together, guys, and figure it out why all of a sudden a trade minister from England is going to China. Here is what's interesting about this. His trip coincided with similar unannounced visit by none other than this guy. Well, this guy is Admiral Tony Radkin. Tony Radkin is the admiral for Navy, for the British Navy, that is. So this visit is the first of its own kind in 10 years. So this is why I found it very, very interesting that you have the trade minister along with the head of the British Army, Admiral Tony, both of them visiting Beijing for talks with the Chinese counterparts. So that just makes you just wonder, how come all of a sudden those guys are visiting Britain? And by the way, this guy is going to go to Hong Kong and Hainan Island. So I just find it very, very interesting. And the third thing I want to share with you, it has pertained to Iran. Now, the picture you're looking at is Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian. During his visit yesterday, he visited an exhibition of his country's nuclear achievements. And that was in Tehran. So makes you just wonder. And of course, it was Ali Shamkhani. I'm going to share a picture with you here. Ali Shamkhani is right here. Ali Shamkhani, who traces his roots to some Arabs way back, his ancestor. Ali Shamkhani is an advisor to Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. Because here is the reason why you need to understand why the Iranian president visited this and they decided to share it, to make it a public knowledge, is because they wanted to preempt the talks that his country, meaning Iran, might enter into through third party with the United States this coming weekend. So this is why they wanted to preempt the talks with the United States over its nuclear program. Because here is the thing. The reason for this picture is that Iran is warning of the consequences of the external threat to its sovereignty, and it stated, now it's official, it stated that it could suspend cooperation with the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, and transferred the enriched uranium to a safer site, which means IAEA will have no access whatsoever. This is, once again, when you think of geopolitics, you have to think in terms of other events that's taking place. All right, let's get into our conversation here about the Houthis defying the U.S. as it targets Tel Aviv and the U.S. warships. So, but before I'll delve deeper into all this, please, if this is your first time, visiting, landing here on this channel. I will greatly appreciate if you could. I'm going to share the link to the channel. Will greatly appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel here. And did I? Yes, I put the link there. I will greatly appreciate if you could subscribe and share the channel with others so they have an opportunity like you to hear the truth. And thank you for your support. So now I'm going to play a clip for you first before I'll delve deeper into all this. And the clip is by the military spokesperson for the Houthis, and I'll make or Ansar Allah, and I'll make the translation for you guys. So take a listen, please. Let me make sure you can hear.
ردا على العدوان الأمريكي المتواصل على بلدنا وردا على مجازره المروعة بحق شعبنا.
What he's saying there is in response to to the ongoing U.S. aggression against our country and its horrific massacres against our people.
حيث شن خلال الساعات الماضية عددا كبيرا من الغارات على
because he conducted some major airstrikes in the last few hours
متفرقة
in different regions of the country,
عن وقوع شهداء وجرحى,
which led to the killing of some civilians, and there were some injured individuals as well,
وأضرار في ممتلكات المواطنين,
and a destruction to the property of many citizens.
وبعون الله تعالى تمكنت دفاعاتنا الجوية من إسقاط طائرة أمريكية.
With the help of God, our defenses were able to shoot down a U.S. plane. He used the term plane, but it's in a reference to another MQ-9.
معادية نوع MQ-9.
Yeah, MQ-9, MQ-9, that's what it is.
أثناء قيامها بمهام عدائية في أجواء محافظة.
And that was during when it was carrying out its hostile missions in the airspace of the Jawf, Al-Jawf governorate, محافظة الجوف, for those who know about the geography of Yemen.
الجوف وذلك بصاروخ مناسب محلي.
We targeted it with a similar missile. That's the term they use. In other words, the equivalency of what they have used, using suitable, locally manufactured missile. Very, very interesting point. Now, why is this important, guys? It is important when he used the term locally manufactured or produced. It gives you an idea now that the Houthis in possession to produce, self-produce, or in other words, indigenous production. They don't have to depend. Of course, they still get some support from other entities, be they Iran or some others. However, the fact that he disclosed that they produce their own missiles. Listen to it again.
وتعتبر هي الطائرة
sorry.
مناسب محلي الصنع وتعتبر هي الطائرة الثالثة التي تنجح دفاعاتنا الجوية في إسقاط.
This is considered the third. It's the third downing of the drones in the last few days.
خلال 10 أيام.
In 10 days.
والثامنة عشرة.
And it's the 18th MQ-9 that we have destroyed.
خلال معركة الفتح الموعود والجهاد المقدس إسنادا لغزة.
And this is in support of Gaza and so forth. So you guys got the idea. I'm going to stop it right here and keep going with my analysis, because you need to know more into all this one here. So now, basically, what you need to understand is that the response now, the Houthi, and this is why I use the term Houthis defies the United States, because what the U.S. end up doing now, we add in more planes and more support. As a matter of fact, there is a conversation now about the movements, a possibility of another aircraft carrier. Well, so far, because it begs the question, why are we adding more hardware in addition to what we already have? We have already 2 aircrafts over in the region. And I kept the picture here for you guys to see. We have the, of course, the USS Harry Truman. Then we added the new one, which is the Carl Vinson. Now we add in more planes and so forth. What makes you just wonder? Is something happened with the USS Harry Truman, which why he moved up north of the Red Sea? I'll let you guys decide for that yourself, because it just doesn't make sense to me. From a military perspective, you add in more assets. That's what you already have. Well, you couldn't even defeat them with what you have. What makes you think adding more is going to do it? And that is why I am starting to get convinced, because here is the thing. With what Mr. Saria, the spokesman for during this video, he did not, and I sort of have to disclose this one to you guys. He did not go into more detail regarding what they used in targeting the US warships. So that's I'm not saying he's lying. All I'm saying is I do not know. Could it be a strategic move? They just didn't want to disclose this? Possibly, possibly not. I'm not certain. What I am certain of, it just now starts to make more sense to me from a military perspective why the US will add more assets in addition to what we already have over there. Because now, if the Harry Truman moved all the way up north, did he came under attack? Possibly, possibly not. I'm just thinking outside the box, and I want you to think same way, guys. But you reach your own conclusion for this, and this is why when you think about the latest operation the Houthis conducted, which is on Wednesday, the two of them, the two military operations. The first one was targeting Tel Aviv. Now, let me share a picture, because I got a picture for this one for you here, and I will provide you the link for this one, targeting Tel Aviv. So now, here is what the first one targeted Tel Aviv, and the second military operation by the Houthis, that one targeted a number. It didn't say specifically, but it targeted a number of American warships in the Red Sea. Once again, I am certain that the reason why the Houthis did not want to specifically detail is to leave everybody guessing. Of course, the Americans didn't confirm or deny the attack on the US warships. And that's exactly what Yahya Saree disclosed in the clip that I played for you about the military operation targeting the Israeli military target in Jaffa or Tel Aviv, which is in central Israel, and that they target that one with a drone. Makes you just wonder. The airspace, because makes you just wonder. Because here is what the Israelis are saying. The Israelis are saying, oh, we shut down the airspace. It was intercepted as it was approaching the east earlier in the day before it crossed into the Israeli territory. Are you gonna believe what coming out of whatever? Most likely no. The second thing that happened in Tel Aviv is that the alarms were not activated. I'm sorry, the alarm were activated later on in accordance with protocol. Well, if you're going to activate the alarms, that means whatever is coming already crossed your airspace. Once again, and the only thing that I concur with what the Israeli army radio statement is the confirmation that the drone was originated from Yemen. And that's, again, same picture you're looking at here. So, and that's begs the question, are now the Houthis in possession of something that they can produce domestically? That just makes perfect sense. So, It was a very, very interesting article I had a chance to read. And this one was written by an American author, disclosed about how the Houthis, the Houthis now, outmaneuvered Washington. Very, very interesting article here. So basically, the Houthis, which I always argued about this, and I'm going to provide you an excerpt from my Saudi book in which it confirms to you what I'm talking about. Because here's the thing, and I couldn't agree more with the author of this article by stating that the Houthis refused to budge despite effort by the US Navy and its allies to subdue the Ansar Allah. They couldn't. As a matter of fact, the Ansar Allah now managed to close one of the world, they have been closing one of the world's most strategic waterways for nearly 2 years. And that's, again, in my humble opinion, the reason why we are sending more support, airplanes, the possibility of another aircraft carrier. It highlights to you that we couldn't and we won't be able to defeat the Houthis because they're still standing. That's the reality of it. So, and this is exactly what the author argued, that the Yemeni Houthis have succeeded in outmaneuvering the United States in the Red Sea, still till today. So now, and the person who wrote this is Ramon Marx. He's a retired international lawyer who regularly writes on the national security issues. And his argument, and I couldn't agree more, his argument is that the US Navy's efforts have failed to prevent the Houthis from closing the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which you all know what it is. It's way at the corner of Aden, the Bab el-Mandeb, Bab el-Mandeb Strait. That's what it is. So for nearly 2 years, that's what has forced most of the other maritime to go around. So it makes perfect sense why we won't be able to defeat the Houthis. We won't be able to defeat them. And like I mentioned earlier, what Mr. Sari disclosed is the shutting down of another MQ-9. So that was just happened 48 hours ago when he was hovering over Al Jawf governorate, so which is in north, if I recall, northeast, and that's Houthis are able to use their own manufactured missiles. Makes you just wonder, are you seeing a trend here? It looks to me that's what it is. Pardon me. And that's what prompted now the US to consideration of deciding we're going to have to send another possibly of aircraft. No decision has been made yet. I'm keeping an eye open, following certain press releases from the Pentagon, whether because they're going to have to disclose this information. They can't. There are certain information that has to be disclosed, especially a movement of an aircraft carrier. So, and this is where you start to realize, as the US intensifies its raids on Yemen, as the Houthis increase their attacks on both US warships and the Israeli target inside Tel Aviv. As a matter of fact, last night I read that you won't believe how many Jewish people have left Israel. Yeah. On the other hand, you won't believe also about the civilian deaths inside Yemen. So, because we have been targeting over 300 locations, even though I will not buy what the White House is stating in its press releases, that we've targeted the Houthi leadership and so forth. There is one incident that happened, and this incident has to do with the head of the commander of the intelligence force inside the Houthis, who has been targeted. makes you just wonder, was there an asset, human? This is where human intelligence, we call it human. There's second human, element, and so forth, electronic intelligence and so forth. So meaning that now the Houthis have to hunt down the mole inside, because that's the only explanation. As one who works in this field for a long time, once you start hitting certain specific targets, this can happen just because you have satellites, whatever. No. This, you will need human intelligence on the ground. And this is where I believe the Houthis will stay quiet, which explains to me why they didn't disclose the detail regarding the targeting of the US warships. Also leads me to the conclusion, which was a week and a half ago or 2 weeks, why the US made the decision to move the USS Harry Truman further up north. That's to me just what makes sense. That's what makes sense. So, and here is what I used to, let me just share with you. When I did a presentation about the Yemen. So, and very, very interesting. Even back then, I argued that Yemen is one of those countries. Don't assume you can just walk in and take over. So it ain't gonna work. And this is why, and I'm just passing this. I'm gonna get to one specific slide right here. This is our list of the countries that have been involved in the war against the Houthis back in 2015 and so forth. So look at the countries. Just look at the countries. Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Jordan, Morocco, Sudan, Pakistan, and US. Now, we won't care about the US much, but all those so-called Muslim countries, it gives you an idea. Islam in term, in words only. But look how many look at what Qatar sent. 10 fighter jets, 1,000 Qatari. So Kuwait, 15 fighter jets. United Arab Emirates, 30 warplanes. Egypt, 4 warships and up to 800 ground troops. Shame, and 6 fighter jets. Morocco, 6 fighter jets. And the Houthis down 1. And I was aware of that one. Later on, Morocco he withdrew from this coalition. Sudan and Pakistan. So, and of course for us, and again, I'm aware of this, we were supporting with intel and providing ammo in addition to France, Germany, and UK. So, and that is again to highlight to you, look how many strikes and so forth. And yet Saudis couldn't defeat the Houthis. That's how strong they are. So I just wanted to share this with you. And to those who might be interested in wanting to learn more about my speaking engagement, I'm going to share the link with you guys in the chat box. You can look it up later on when you have a chance. Now, let me share an excerpt with you pertaining to this one vis-a-vis the Houthis and why. If the US has this arrogance of thinking we're going to defeat them, we're mistaken. So here is what I wrote back when I wrote my Saudi book. Saudi Arabia's ill-conceived economic and political policies are failing. The considerable cost associated with its ongoing war in Yemen is further contributing to its decline. Saudi Arabia does not know what to do. It failed miserably when it decided to pursue a military misadventure against the Houthis, whom Iran supports. Now, Saudi Arabia is convinced that the time has come for it to enter into some form of political negotiations to end the conflict. Moreover, that will certainly confirm Iran's growing regional hegemony. Welcome to the new geopolitical landscape of the Middle East, in which Iran captains the Middle East political game while the Saudis watch from the sidelines. That's what I argued back then. Of course, things have changed, but one thing that has not changed is that the Saudis and the Arab countries, You saw the list of how many sent their fighter jets. Why aren't they sending their fighter jets in support of Gaza, for example? And Gazans, Muslims too. So this is where that hypocrisy of the highest order. And that's, to me, one of those, I don't do well with hypocrisy. If you got something to tell me to my face. Hypocrisy, I can't stand it. I just can't stand it. And again, this is what you see Arab and so-called Muslim leaders. I know some of you do not like me to use the term Muslims, but I will. The reason being because those leaders call themselves Muslims. So how can you be playing both sides? And that's, again, my point. To tie it to our conversation here is that the US won't be able to defeat the Houthis. Houthis still standing. So, and this is where, once again, I had a chance to read an article by Dr. Mark O'Neill. And again, part of this stuff, guys, I did the research. So I remember, I have the references, I have all this stuff. So, and I couldn't argue, I couldn't agree more with his recent article in which he argued that the Houthis have proven resilient in the face of the strikes conducted by the US. So, it's because if you think about, we are just flexing our military to intimidate. No, those people don't fear death. They don't have that fear. This is one thing the Western world never gets, never understand. In certain parts of the Arab and Muslim world, death is just part of the process. They don't fear it. So, and this proves that here is 2 years since the Houthis imposed blockades on the Red Sea. Tell me if there is any ship crossing, including the US. None whatsoever. 2 years. We still couldn't lift it despite our might and so forth. And while all this happening, here is one thing. Did you guys know that now there is a conversation inside Washington that now we're going to cross $1 trillion in defense budget? Makes perfect sense to you why we are doing what we're doing. While most Americans have no clue, it's because they're being distracted by the tariffs and all that stuff, while the Pentagon is moving in a different direction. So, and if you think about what the previous incompetent President Biden did when thinking about, you all remember? You remember when the US launched this so-called Operation Prosperity Guardian in December 2023? They couldn't do squat to the Houthis. And what I noticed back then, you have some European countries were eager to get involved. All of a sudden, once they start to feel the heat, they withdraw. It was only UK that stays, because UK is a pathetic, weak state anyway. UK is done for, And of course, Israel was contributing to the US strikes also, part of that. There's 3 countries that left: US, Israel, and the UK. But France, Germany, Italy, and all that, they all withdrew because they felt the heat. And at that time, there were about 10 nations. And what those nations wanted? Oh, we're going to have to secure navigation on the Red Sea, and we're going to target and defeat the Houthis. That's what they said. And here we are. So neither actions deterred the Houthis. As a matter of fact, it makes them even more stronger. To the fact, and I am convinced, guys, usually when I put my sights on something, it's my strong conviction that we moved the USS Harry Truman further north is because probably it came under attack. And we didn't want to risk it because the optics of it. Just imagine, guys, the optics of an aircraft carrier being attacked by Ansar Allah or Houthis. We're not talking China here. We're not talking Russia. We're not talking North Korea. We're not talking Iran. We're talking about Ansar Allah, Houthis. That's what I meant by this. That's why I'm convinced about this one. And the reason now we are considering adding another aircraft carrier and sending more aircraft supports. So it's almost like more of the same, but there is no outcome whatsoever. I mean, can we say we have defeated? I mean, you all remember what Trump said. I'm going to render Houthis to the Stone Age. Yeah, good luck with that, Mr. Trump. Because here is the thing. What you need to understand, and I couldn't agree more with Dr. O'Neill, that the U.S. strikes, it's just one of those more performance, just to show, instead of being more effective in reducing the attacks on shipping or limiting the strikes against Israel. So because remember this, guys, the shipping through the Red Sea has decreased by about almost 70%. The exact figure that I remember reading was about 65, give or take. So this is why more the I don't know if I still have a map here to show you guys. It's unlikely, but no, I don't have the map. Well, I have the small one here that shows. This is Bab el-Mandeb. This is Yemen. That's Bab el-Mandeb right there. Most of now with this shipment, 65% decrease. That means that all traffic now, shipments, have to go around the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa, which has increased by 70%. And that in itself added more to the cost. And all this is because the deterrence against the Houthis did not work. They're still standing. They just, and for Sharia, and I found it very interesting during that clip I played video, for you rather. And I did play some clips before, but he never mentioned about domestic production of missiles. They are very strategic. There is a timing for everything. Once again, I found myself convinced the reason we decide to move the USS Harry Truman is because we got either an intel suggesting that they have something that can target the aircraft, we better move out before it's too late, or something else. That's just my own, when you feel so strong and convinced about something, that's just how I see it. So suffice it to say now, most of the US efforts now prove ineffectual. It just useless. We spent $1 billion already since March 15. What have we achieved? Destroyed more buildings? So what? They can be rebuilt. But also it shows the weak, because these strikes we are conducting, this is not strength, this is weakness. You targeting civilian infrastructure? That's just the low of the low. You couldn't defeat the Houthis. And that the more the US does this, the more the Houthis appears to be strong. So, and little long, we're not talking about the information campaign objectives of all this. For the fact that the Houthis will come and publicly disclose, we have targeted Tel Aviv, we have targeted Ben Gurion airport, we have targeted this, targeted that, publicly. Because this only gives you an idea about the limitations of the US strikes. So, because Houthis are irregular forces, it's not your, it's different. And you think we have learned something from Afghanistan, we have learned something from Iraq, we have learned something from Somalia? None. Or Vietnam for that matter, or Laos and Cambodia for that matter. So now there are those who might be thinking or saying, well, now might this lead to the ground forces? It's not a laughing matter, but you're going to see another graveyard the same way like we saw in Afghanistan. The ground forces won't cut it in Yemen. It just won't. That's my opinion. But all this puts the strategy of the US that is embarking on, that is a failure. Simple as that. That is a failure. Let me share the link with you guys before I forget, so this way you have it in case you want to read up about it later on. You can take a look at that later on. So, and once again, I'm going to share another excerpt, if you allow me, from my Saudi book to highlight to you. And again, I'm sharing this with you to make a point. It's not about me writing books, whatever I did, but that's the point. Here is what I wrote. The world witnessed what came after that dark era. I was referring to a certain time in history in Afghanistan. Oppressing women in the name of Islam, banning education for girls in the name of Islam, forcing men to wear a foot-long beard in the name of Islam, and banning music and entertainment in the name of Islam. 3 decades later, Iran and Saudi Arabia face off once again. This time, the confrontation happens in and around Yemen, near the Saudi southern border. The stakes now are even higher for the Saudis. Pursuant to his arrogance and foreign policy inexperience, MBS assumed that defeating the Houthis would be easy. He was wrong. How ironic that a decade ago, Saudi Arabia advised the United States to think twice about invading Iraq. Yet, with the ongoing conflict in Yemen, Saudi Arabia demonstrates an astounding failure to follow its own good advice. If nothing else, such widespread myopia explains why Saudi Arabia lags behind, as private conversations now underway in many Western capitals focus on Saudi Arabia's future stability and survival. That's what I argued back then. So my point in all this, that if we are thinking because of our might we're going to defeat the Houthis, we are mistaken. So, and now Houthis made it clear that by disclosing, you have to pay close attention to the wording, guys. By disclosing that we used our own manufactured missiles, that's all needed to be said to highlight. So, of course, whomever is going to help the Houthis is going to help them with some advanced knowledge. I argued once before that, could Russia be helping the Houthis? And I say yes. As a matter of fact, the Russians have disclosed the last 3 days, I remember, because I read one assessment from the Kremlin stating that Russia is concerned about the possibility of 2 things. One is the US and Iran tensions might escalate, and second, the possibility of ground troops in Yemen. And that's the assessment of the Kremlin. And that makes me just think and wonder for the timing for the Houthis to announce the domestic production of missiles. That's just how I see it. That's how I see it. And of course, I could be wrong, but that is so far what I feel comfortable with regarding these assessments and the analysis that I am providing you. So it will be interesting to see the next movements of what the Trump administration is going to do, given now that the $1 trillion budget has been reached quietly. Most Americans have no idea because everybody is paying attention to the tariffs, which, by the way, China just hammered the US with more tariffs this morning. Now it increased tariffs to 125%. And the US have increased it to 145%. So it's going to be this tit for tat. And I believe, and I'm not an economist, but common sense suggests to me that the Chinese are in a far better position than the Americans. That's the way I see it. Because this argument of us bringing jobs here, it's a flat out lie. Come on, let's get real. Let's get real, people. I mean, you look at now just who cut the grass outside here in the US. Most of the, immigrants and so forth. Some of us Americans don't want to do this kind of job. you see who put the roofs and on the houses and all that. You don't see most Americans women. No, I just don't see it. And again, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I kind of think twice before I say something. So this is my own assessment. So let me just wrap this up and I sign off here. Wanted to confirm one thing. For now, that the Houthis, yeah, and I'm going to share the picture. The Houthis attack of the of Tel Aviv, and this is going to continue, by the way, because they have one demand and one demand only, is for Israel to stop its aggression against Gaza, the civilians and so forth, and allow food, water, assistance, and so forth to get into the country. And once again, where is the rest of the Arab world? So, let me put this again, guys, just for your own, because you need to see. Oh, sorry. Look at the countries that have contributed military hardware against the Houthis back then. Where are they today? That's why I always say, Arabs and some Muslim countries tend to do more talking than action. They are so pathetic and weak. Simple as that. It's because leaders in those countries, they don't care about, they care about survival of the regimes. That's all it is. So, and again, it's not the people, but it's their country. They can decide whatever they want to do and live however they want. So anyway, guys, that's all I have to share with you. I wanted to just provide you some additional analysis regarding the recent developments. I'll keep my eyes open as to where things is moving forward, and we just go from there. So, and of course, I might do one thing for you guys, for our community, and I'm thinking about it. Maybe one day I am gonna do just one session for answering your questions. Usually I take only super sticker questions, but it's only have to be fair to everybody, depending again on what part of the world you're in and so forth. So this is why I'm thinking in terms of doing this at some point. So before I let you guys go, I will greatly appreciate just to share with you, if you want to support my upcoming Asia trip, I will be very grateful to you for that, because I intend to go to Asia after August, assuming we reach the target funding of $11,400. That's the exact number, and I will provide you. I'll share with you where it is as far as today regarding the fundraising for that. So if you want to support the channel, here is the link for it, and I will be grateful to you for that. And if you want to purchase any copy of my books, here is the link for that one. And I have them far, 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 far cheaper what the publishers ask. It's ridiculous when they're asking for $130 a copy. But again, that's the publishers. It's not me, but I own the rights, by the way. So they don't dictate to me. I'll put the price whatever I want. So anyway, thank you all, guys, for being here. Appreciate your civil discourse in the chat box, and I appreciate you for keeping an eye on it's our community, because I can't do it alone, guys. You all know this. I don't need to beat the dead horse here. I can't do it alone. So I count on you to keep an eye open if there is somebody that is not, adhering to the, respect that we all expect from our members here, and to keep it a safe environment for everybody. So I thank you for that. And Daniela, good to see you. Good to see you, Daniela. Really appreciate it. Daniela has been an avid supporter of the channel, by the way. There are some of you guys, they stay behind the scenes, and I'm aware of that. So I'm very, very grateful to all of you. Army with Harmony, once again, greatly appreciate you gifting the membership. It means a lot to me, and I'm very, very, very grateful. So, all right, guys, wishing you a good rest of the day, whatever part of the world you're in, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Enjoy your weekend. As always, remember, geopolitics impact your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.